All right, so we're diving into some pretty interesting stuff today, and I'm excited to get your take on it. You sent over this song called Moon Landing by Donnie Doom
Yeah,
and an analysis of it. And it
Mhm.
seems like right off the bat, we're dealing with a creative work that's making a pretty huge claim.
absolutely. And I think what's so fascinating right away is how music can be used as a way to talk about or, well, express a perspective on these big historical events, and obviously the 1969 moon landing is one of those.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And the analysis points out that the song's main point, the whole argument it's putting forward is basically just saying straight up that the moon landing was faked. I mean, the line, we faked the moon landing, it's repeated over and over again.
Yeah.
So I think our job here is to really break down what the song itself says
Mm.
about this idea, what kind of evidence it even hints at, and who it seems to be pointing the finger at.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to remember, as we're going through this, that we're focusing on the claims being made within this song and within this analysis. So it's not about us debating the actual history of the moon landing.
Right, right, of course.
We're looking at it as like a narrative that's being presented in this particular artistic expression.
Right, yeah. It's kind of amazing how a song can take on such a powerful and controversial viewpoint.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. Let's start with the core of Donnie Doom's argument, that central claim.
Well, the song just comes right out and says it, we faked the moon landing. It's stated so clearly and definitively. And it's like the bedrock, the foundation upon which the whole lyrical narrative is built. There's
Hmm.
no ambiguity there.
No kidding. They're not mincing words.
Yeah.
Now, the analysis mentions that while the lyrics talk about being bound and determined, fueled by ambition and on a secret course, they don't really go into why this huge deception would have even been pulled off.
That's a really good point. And this lack of a clearly stated motive, it's actually pretty common in a lot of conspiracy theories. And it kind of allows the listeners, maybe even subconsciously, to fill in the blanks themselves with their own suspicions or reasons for distrust. Like, what sort of ambition, as the song puts it, could possibly drive such a massive and risky undertaking?
Yeah, it definitely makes you wonder what the end game was supposed to be in the world of the song. So it's not just a vague
Mm.
we either. It actually names names about who was supposedly in on this whole scheme.
Exactly. The lyrics call out specific people and institutions. Neil and Buzz, they were in on the scheme, and NASA and Nixon, they were in on the scheme. And this really broadens the scope of the alleged conspiracy, right? It's not just a couple of rogue individuals now, it's implicating these iconic figures and these powerful organizations. What jumps out at you about that, about the fact that they name names?
Well, to me, it adds this whole other layer of drama and almost a shock value. By naming these really well-known figures, the song really emphasizes the scale of the deception that it's trying to portray. It suggests this really deep and coordinated effort at the highest levels. So how does the song describe how they supposedly pulled this off? What were the methods of this whole fake moon landing, according to the song?
Well, according to the lyrics, the deception was all about creating an illusion. It's almost like a huge cinematic production. The song talks about building a lunar landscape so grand and using movie magic and special effects. And then there's the line behind a silver reel, which really drives home this idea of a staged event, like something that was carefully constructed and filmed rather than an actual journey to the moon.
So it's painting this picture of a Hollywood studio, with sets and special effects all being used to simulate the moon landing. It's a very visual, very theatrical way of imagining this whole deception. And what about the public's reaction in the song's story? Did they have any idea that something was fishy, or did they completely buy it?
The lines, "We fooled the world under the starry night," definitely convey this strong sense that within the world of the song, the public was totally taken in by this alleged hoax. And the analysis also points out something really interesting about the chorus line. Oh, what a sight. It suggests that it could actually be meant sarcastically. Like it's highlighting the manufactured spectacle that was presented to the world as this genuine event. What do you think about that possible sarcasm?
Oh, I think it definitely adds this cynical tone to the song. It's almost like the perpetrators within the story are kind of mocking the public for being so gullible. Now, one phrase really jumps out from both the lyrics and the analysis as being central to the whole argument, is that a paper moon, a Hollywood dream.
Yeah, that's such a powerful and evocative phrase. And it really works as like the core metaphor for the song's central claim. Right away, paper moon makes you think of something flimsy, artificial, something that lacks any real substance. It doesn't have the solidity of the actual moon. And then when you combine that with a Hollywood dream, It really solidifies this idea of the moon landing within the context of the song as this fabricated illusion, like it's a product of cinematic trickery and not a real historical event. How does that imagery hit you?
Well, that image, that paper moon and Hollywood dream, it's so short, but it's so powerful. It's the kind of line that really sticks with you, and it sums up the whole argument of the song in this really memorable way. Now, it's important, I think, for us to touch on something that the analysis brings up about the song's perspective and what it doesn't include.
Right, and this is really key to understanding how the song frames its argument. The analysis explicitly states that the song exclusively presents the viewpoint that the moon landing was faked, and it doesn't acknowledge any alternative perspectives at all, and it completely ignores the mountain of evidence that supports the authenticity of the event. So it's basically operating within its own self-contained belief system. What do you think the implications of that are, of that singular focus?
Well, I think it highlights that the song isn't trying to have a balanced conversation or weigh different sides of an argument. It's presenting this one unwavering viewpoint as if it's the absolute truth. So what does the analysis say about the overall tone and the message of the song?
The analysis describes the song's tone as being very conspiratorial and declarative. It's not presented as a question or even as a possibility. It's stated as fact, as this hidden truth that's now being revealed. And the message is very clearly one of revealing the supposed historical lie and how the public was intentionally misled by these powerful forces. And this confident and doute tone, it's a big part of how the song makes its case and tries to persuade the listener, even though it's all within this fictional context.
So as we've seen this song by Donnie Doom, it offers a very distinct and pretty dramatic interpretation of the 1969 moon landing. It builds this narrative of deliberate deception with these key players and institutions, and it uses the imagery of Hollywood and spectacle to really hammer home these claims of it all being fake.
And what I find so interesting is how a creative work like a song can engage with such a momentous historical event and present this completely different perspective, even without offering any factual evidence beyond what's in the lyrics. It really shows the power of artistic expression to explore and share even the most unconventional viewpoints.
Absolutely. And I think this deep dive into moon landing leaves us with a really important question to think about. What is it about a story, especially when it's presented in a creative format like a song, that gives it the power to shape people's beliefs and perspectives, even when those perspectives go against what's widely accepted as historical truth? It makes you wonder how information and even misinformation can spread and take hold in our minds just because of how compelling a story is, even when it's set to music.
Yeah.
That's something to ponder for sure.
Definitely food for thought.
Thanks for joining me today. It's been an insightful conversation.
My pleasure. It's always great to unpack these kinds of thought-provoking topics.
Until next time, keep those ears open and those minds curious.
And stay skeptical out there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Take care. You too.